Welcome to a video here I've been wanting to make on why did I hike the PNT eastbound, and then going over some resupply and logistical challenges that were unique to the year that I hiked it, 2023. First thing, guess why did I go eastbound when maybe 95%, maybe even higher than that, of hikers go westbound? Well, one reason, honestly, was I just like the idea of hiking up from the coast to the Continental Divide. I know it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, there's plenty of ups and downs no matter which way you go, but that just kind of called out to me more. Another is I do enjoy the solitude and feeling like I'm the only one out there, which, if that's what you want, you'll get it if you hike this trail eastbound. Third thing, maybe the most important thing as well, this year, 2024, I have plans to hike the Continental Divide Trail southbound, making certain sacrifices in my life to make that happen. Last summer, I really just wanted to make sure that it was still something I wanted to do. I figured that challenging myself with a very lonely and difficult trail would really, I would definitely find out if hiking the CDT was still something I wanted to do, with things like quitting your job and saving money and all the stuff that kind of goes into through hiking for most people, because I've been a teacher the last 8 years, and most of the hiking I've done has been in the summertime when there's breaks, and I have the comfort of still having a salary, but now I'm getting ready to live off savings for a bit and go after the things I want to go after while I'm still young enough to do it. With the PNT, I definitely found out that it was still something I really wanted to do. I really enjoyed this PNT hike, and so I want to make a video on the logistics and resupply, and hopefully inspire more people not just to hike the PNT but to hike it eastbound. First thing is just maybe logistics of getting to the terminus. I'll keep this quick because you can definitely find information online. But basically, I flew into Seattle. I took a Greyhound to Port Angeles, and then from Port Angeles I took a bus. And so on the screen here, you take the bus, and there's a split here, and there's a bus that goes kind of on the South Fork and the North Fork, and you're ultimately trying to get to here, Cape Lava, the westernmost point in the continental US. And when I looked at the map, I figured, okay, this north road looks a little bit more direct. So you take the bus, but the bus only goes to, I'm not sure exactly where, maybe like here somewhere, and then it was hitching from there. And I did not realize how little traffic was on this road. So the bus, I get off at the last stop and start sticking my thumb out. Get a ride pretty quickly, maybe 5 minutes, but the guy only takes me a few miles up the road. And I was waiting somewhere. It was somewhere very close to the coast, because I remember looking at the coast when I was standing there waiting for a ride. And I think one time about 20 minutes went by and not a single car went by in either direction, and it's probably 6-7 p.m., something like that. And being like, man, am I gonna get there tonight, or am I gonna have to start walking this road and hope someone gives me a ride in the morning? But just kept the faith and kept the thumb out, and eventually a car goes by, and they, when you're hitching, sometimes they'll drive by, they'll make a U-turn, and then they'll come pick you up, and that's always very nice. And these guys were going to Cape Lava, so it worked out. I got to here, Ozette River, I guess, and you walk this little blue blaze out to Cape Lava, and this is like June 26th, I think, and so the days are very long. You're also very far north and west, which makes the days even that much longer. So it's probably like 10 p.m. and there was still daylight, and I just camped right here on the beach and got up the next morning and started my hike in earnest. And people who go westbound say ending with the beach walk is a great way to end a hike, but it's also a great way to begin a hike. It's really unique hiking. The other trails I've done, there's really nothing that's even close to the beach walk. And I guess I've never really seen such a wilderness setting on a coast before. You know, growing up on the East Coast, it's all boardwalks and mini golf and little amusement parks on the coast. But here it's crazy rock formations, bald eagles. It's just beautiful. I really enjoyed the beach walk. I should probably talk about permits for Olympic National Park. So the beach walk is all in Olympic National Park, and the Olympic National Park section basically goes from Cape Alava to, I think right here on the map you enter the Buckhorn Wilderness, and then you're out of the national park like jurisdiction, I guess. And, you know, it being a national park, they got all their, you know, bureaucracy. You got to get permits. It was pretty easy to get the permit. I had to talk to the rangers and tell them I wanted to hike the PNT eastbound starting June 26th. And the guy, you know, I spent maybe an hour or so on the phone with one of the rangers. They made my schedule for me. I'll be honest, and I know some people might get mad at me for this, but the permit that they gave me, I did not stick with the dates at all. They were very conservative. I like to hike fast, and especially like it was still pretty early in the season. There were not a lot of people. I know I went at least one full day without seeing another human. Yeah, I did not think I was doing the wrong thing really to not stick with the permit dates. But hey, that's me. Hike your own hike, as they say. And another regulatory thing that I am not a fan of is the bear canister. So I did have my bear canister from Cape Alava to Forks because they are required for the coast, but they're not required for the mountain section, which I think is a little weird, but I don't make the rules. I did follow their guidelines. I carried the bear canister on the beach, and basically I sent it home when I got to Forks. I know some people will rent their own on the PNT, but I mailed myself mine and mailed it home. It's very easy to mail a bear canister. You just slap a shipping label on it and send it to wherever you need to send it to. A couple things with the beach walk is you really need to be careful with some of the tide restrictions. All right, so this is the tide chart they sent me. They sent me for June, and you know, naively, I thought the high tides and low tides are all the same every day before I hike this trail. And then then you realize, okay, it's not just the moon that makes the tides. The sun is pulling on the oceans as well, and there's different things that affect the tides. So like what I'm saying here, if there's a 4-foot tide restriction and you were here June 26th at 6:40 in the morning, that's a 5.6 foot tide. So that would not be a good tide to get around that section. These are the dates, like this last week in June that I was there, and for some of these sections, or really just one, which we'll get to in a second, you really want a minus tide for, ideally. I think it was this one on the 29th. Tide restriction to keep in mind was Diamond Rock. So you see here it says 2-foot tide at Diamond Rock, tidal restriction of 2 feet. This is really the one you need to take seriously. And I want to really make this video like more for eastbound hikers. I know most people go west, but if you go west, it's like the first one you come across, and then you get past it and you're pretty much home free. Going eastbound, you need to be a little bit more maybe patient or diligent in your planning, because I got to here. This is, I think, Jefferson Cove. This is like a ladder section here. I actually got here maybe around in the afternoon sometime. And if you go back to the tide chart, that was on the 28th. And I remember this now. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, maybe if I get there, I can get through with a 2.6 restriction. And I got there maybe like just after 2:30, and I like had to look at the headland and quickly realized it was something I didn't want to fuck around with. And I also didn't want to camp on the beach because it was just like being baked by the sun. So I actually like went back up the ladders, and there's a camp spot up here somewhere, and I set up my tent and took a nap at maybe around 7:38. I packed up and hiked and just moved my camp down on the beach, so I'd be there in the morning and also have one more night on the coast. But anyway, got up at I think 3:30 in the morning on the 29th, and I hiked around the headland. The point four tide was totally fine for it, but you just want to be very careful with that section. And then it's pretty. These are all just logging roads, all the way into Forks. It's long, but it's really easy hiking. And then you get down to here. I hitchhiked into Forks, where I mailed myself a resupply, and I also mailed myself snow gear for the Olympics. And when I spoke to the rangers, they strongly encouraged that I take an ice axe and microspikes. So I did what they said. I sent the ice axe microspikes there, and I figured if I was already sending stuff there, I should just send myself a resupply. So I did that. If you're a little bit later, or you won't need an ice axe or microspikes, there's very good grocery stores in Forks. So you definitely don't need to send a box there. So it's not a huge town, but it's, a good enough town. Going up into the Olympics, I took, I think, 6 days of food to get into Port Townsend, which is really the most I ever want to carry. So you hike this road up here, and then you go into the Bogushil rainforest. And I think years past, this section, the Bogushil rainforest section, has been a total disaster in terms of blowdowns and the trail being overgrown. And when I was there in probably June 30th, 2023, it was overgrown. There were a few blowdowns, but it really wasn't bad. Yeah, I think I definitely had it easier than some of my predecessors. Yeah, basically you get up into the mountains, you get up onto, I think, like here. Yeah, here's the High Divide section. Yeah, I know this can get busy with people just coming up to do like the High Divide loops. So the Bogushil River section, that was, I think definitely one full day where I did not see another human the entire day, from waking up and walking to setting up camp. And I think I hiked about 25 miles that day. Saw no other humans. And then all right, this is okay, so the Elwha River here, this is actually a really cool section because if you've seen there's a Patagonia documentary called Damnation, and the removal of the Elwha River Dam was featured prominently in that section. I actually watched a documentary after I hiked the PNT, and you used to be able to cross the dam right here and just continue going this way, but they removed the dam because dams, they're not natural. They disrupt the fisheries. There's a lot of problems with dams, and a lot of dams that don't really serve a purpose anymore that were built like 100 years ago. So the dam was removed, I think, in 2011, and now you have to hike all the way down here. And when they removed the dam, the water like completely destroyed the road, that let the tourists come up here from Port Angeles. It's really kind of eerie, like end of the world vibes with like national park signage and infrastructure, but there's no cars or anything, and like you can tell no one has driven on the roads in like 10 years, over 10 years. And I had a very nice camp down here at a car campground, but there's a few people who wrote you can get a bike up there. But it's a very nice place for a camp. And yeah, there's this alternate here. I don't really know much about that alternate. I hiked the red line all the way through the Olympics, and this part here is very nice hiking up the Elwha River. And then you get to, this is the climb up to Hayden Pass. Yeah, you can see Hayden Pass here. When I was talking to the rangers, one of the things they were telling me was watch out for Hayden Pass. And this is where you may need an ice axe and microspikes. And in hindsight, the rangers, while they know something, it's not like they're getting out there and they're hiking every, mile of trail that's in the national park. Like when I was going up there, I could tell no one, or maybe one or two people had been through there before me that season. It's still like, I think, end of June or maybe early July at this point. Yeah, you can see this is my comment here. Full summer conditions. But you can see like, okay, similar date from 2 years ago. This guy had a much sketchier time getting down the backside of the pass, so like it can just depend year to year. Here, this is actually where I saw the only bear I think I saw on the PNT was, I think this is called Bear Camp. Yep. Okay, and then you hike up the Constance Pass. Beautiful views of Rainier. Just amazing hiking all the way through here. And then you leave the national park. It was a good trail for a while, but then you're back on logging roads, and some of this is pretty schwacky. I remember I kind of found out the hard way what a stinging nettle was through here. I know people in Far Out were talking about it, but I was like, okay, I'll try to avoid the stinging nettles if I can. And I go through this one section, I think right here before the road, and they were just it was just completely overgrown. There was no way to avoid the nettles, and I thought I was having an allergic reaction because I started getting hives and bumps like all over my legs. I was wearing split shorts, and I was a little bit concerned for a moment. And then I started like walking the road, and the bumps just kind of went away. It was very strange. But yeah, and then you hit the road walk. I stayed with the Trail Angel. So one thing I'll say, I'm not going to talk too much about the Trail Angels because they may have availability that might change year to year, or just even like day to day. They might not be in town that day or whatnot. So like if I say I stayed at the Trail Angel, I mean I did, but the I'm not going to talk too much about, oh, this was the best Trail Angel, this one, try to avoid. Trail Angels on the PNT, they really do like the hikers and take care of the hikers. But this is basically where the Puget Sound Road Walk starts. And you're still on the Olympic Peninsula, and it starts here. And you're walking roads. Like, this is all road. Road. This part up here is actually kind of sketchy with traffic. Cars are going fast. There's tight turns. Okay, and then you come into Port Townsend. This is where I sent home my microspikes and ice axe here, which I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I never use them. You know, like I said with the other comment there on Far Out, that someone needed them on a similar time frame. It could just depend on the year. So yeah, the Puget Sound section. I mean, you take the ferry over to here. You walk along the beach. Okay, and then part here, because I thought that I was really done having to pay attention to the tides after like the host city or city headland, whatever they call it there. That is not true. You need to be careful with the tides here. So what happened to me, see if I can find it. Yeah, this EB's Landing. This part's really cool. There's good camp spots up here. Let's see, where is it? Okay, it's here. And if this is more of a topo. Let's see if I can make it more of a topo. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So when I was walking along the beach here, and it's rocky, and it's kind of like soft rocky. It's very hard to like walk on it. You're like sinking in. The sun is just baking on you. It was a late afternoon. I was just kind of over it at this point, over the beach walks. And it's like, oh, you still have so much to go. And I was trying to get to a Trail Angels. And also the tide is high and it's coming in. And then I see this little dip here on the map. And I'm like, okay, I think I can maybe potentially scramble up there and get on this trail and get in the state park and just hike the trails and the roads to the Trail Angels. And I was able to do that, but this was a pretty sketchy scramble. It was all just like up a giant sand dune. It was like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, like all fours, digging into the sand, grabbing onto like kind of the tall grass there that grows in the side of the bluff to get up. I did make it to this trail and was able to hike out to the Trail Angels. But point is, just be careful with the tide restrictions on the Puget Sound section, especially. I mean, once you get to past here, it was a morning. Yeah, I remember this Libby Road. I actually ended up hiking this road here because there was a high tide, and I didn't want to deal with the tide. I just hiked the road, and then yeah, these are all roads. Some people will try to skip the roads. I mean, again, hike your own hike, but really, I think it's not that bad of a section. You can go really fast. There's gas stations along the way. You don't really have to carry any food in your pack. You know, I kind of just approached it as a 100 mile pub crawl. I think that really kept me kept the stoke up for the section, and it was cool. Like I'd never been to this part of the country before. A lot of military, like Air Force presence, I guess. Here you'll see the F-16s flying around, and like old school like World War II bomber planes flying around too. They actually make a lot of noise. I don't know if I could live there with all the noise that they make, but there are a few sections here that kind of break up the roads. I think I actually hiked. No, this is I did the Blue Blaze up to Goose Rock, Deception Pass, which is often photographed, and I'll put a screen up there. And then yeah, you're on trail a bit here, and then you get into the Anacortes forest lands here. You're not supposed to camp here, and again, people are going to be mad at me for this, but I stealth camped in the Anacortes forest because camping can be tricky on this section. You know, it's not you're not just out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you got to stay with trail angels or be creative. And I guess I opted for being creative on this section. It's like okay, I mean, it's the woods. You know, I didn't have a fire or anything like that. I got there probably pretty much dark by the time I set up, and it was just getting light when I left. And we actually went down and got a bite to eat in Anacortes. Honestly, I probably hindsight I would have gotten something not really worth going to the downtown. It's just very touristy, I thought. Here, I just cut across this head. There's like a giant like oil refinery or something here, so this is not an ideal section. I just cut across, and then yeah, I mean you're just hiking the road. This Edison, this was a cool spot here. There was like a brewery, and they had pizza there too. And I got there at maybe like 4 in the afternoon the day I was there. It was very nice stop, and then hiked out. And this is pretty much the end of the Puget Sound section. You hike up into the Chuckanuts, and this is beautiful. I know I camped here. Oyster Dome, yeah, I camped at Stunning Sunset. Yeah, that's where I camped, and it was a stunning sunset. Maybe I can put the time lapse I had of that on the screen right now as well. My next resupply was Bellingham. Here, like this is I-5. You know, it's a major interstate in the U.S. I'm sure you could hitchhike it if you really were so inclined. There are signs there that say no hitchhiking, and there's a lot of them. So I guess a few people have tried to, and then I don't know, they don't want you hitchhiking there. So I actually hiked up to this trailhead here, and I met a trail angel, and she took me into town. I actually also sent a box to her as well. And then this next section here, these are a lot of like logging roads. I remember I took this Blue Blaze, and apparently the red line here is just a disaster. There's no trail, so like take the Blue Blaze. I mean, you'll see the comments. Yeah, with logging roads. And my plan was to hike all the way to Concrete, and I remember I think I was here because I did this road walk, started up these switchbacks, and I found, again, it says no camping. I camped here. Somewhere on these switchbacks, I camped. And the stove, I had gotten a new fuel canister in Bellingham, and it screwed on in the parking lot. I tested it, but when I got out here, it just would not screw on. I tried it, and basically I could not eat my food, and I was getting absolutely massacred by mosquitoes here. And I eventually contacted a trail angel, and I hiked down into Lyman, and the trail angel was able to take me to Cedar Woolley to get a new canister. So, and Lyman was a good little spot. Cedar Woolley is a bigger town. Yeah, the trail angels again were very nice and helped me out and let me camp in their lawn that night to kind of help me out with that unplanned detour into town, and yeah, you just walk this blue blaze right into Lyman. And then the next morning I hiked out. I don't even remember. I think I took this blue blaze here. I think this was, they're saying it was bad or something. But anyway, okay, and then this is where you start to get into the North Cascades here. And it's beautiful. Trail here is kind of rough in some spots. It's pretty thick, some blowdowns. Only people who go there are PNT hikers. And then Park Butte, people on Far Out were saying that it's like the best views they've ever saw. But you have to take this side trail to get to it. And the day I was there, it was completely socked in clouds, so I didn't get to see those views. But this is like basically, I don't know if it's officially the national park, or I guess it's still Mount Baker National Forest, but this is a very well trodden trail that sees a lot of use coming down here. And then you get to Baker Lake. And then the next kind of logistical challenge that I had was getting around the fire closure that was in North Cascades National Park. And really, it was a bummer to have to skip this section. And the closure, I'm trying to see where, it was like highlighted on the iPhone app, trying to see where it was. Yeah, no comment here from last season, so I don't think no one's been through, because it was completely closed last season, and the logistics of getting through this area without the trail here is basically impossible. There's no other route that I could find anywhere that will get you around the fire closure that's somewhere in here. So basically what I did was I hiked around Baker Lake to here, the Swift Creek campground. And Swift Creek, I know, is an infamous water crossing. Since I was going to have to turn around anyway, not to just to not deal with that potentially hazardous crossing. And I just hitched from here down into concrete. And then from concrete, I hitched, and I know people have walked this road to connect their continuous footsteps. And usually my hiking philosophy is to connect continuous footsteps, but I did not want to hike that road. It's like 50 miles and the cars go fast, and it's not officially part of the trail. So I just hitched it, and I got a ride pretty quick, and I hitched up to here to Ross Lake. And actually, I hiked westbound for a minute to get to the resort, which is right here. And this is where you can send a box. And the box is, I think it's $20 to send a box there. I highly recommend doing, because there's really nowhere else to get a resupply. Your options there are pretty limited otherwise. So yeah, send a box to Ross Lake. I mean, it's a really cool place. And you can actually pay them, I think, like $4. And they'll take you in a boat back over to here. And I think I ended up camping like right up here somewhere by like a little picnic table pavilion kind of thing. And going eastbound, you need to load up with the food for this next section, because you have the Pasayten Wilderness coming up. And the Pasayten Wilderness is one of the wildest, most remote places I've ever been. But it's amazing. So the trail here around the lake is pretty cruiser, and then you make this right turn and you start climbing up to Devil's Dome. And the trail gets a little bit rougher up here, but it's not bad. And the trail here is spectacular. Some of the best views I've ever had on trail were up here. Really, really incredible stuff. Down through the western Pasayten, and then here where it starts going northbound, this is the PCT. And you can really tell the difference between the PNT and the PCT on this 13-mile section. The trail is just so much more well built. There's no blowdowns, way more people. Like, I don't know if I saw anybody. I think I saw one person just before Devil's Dome. I don't think I saw anyone until I got to the PCT section. And then you start seeing a lot of PCT hikers. The trail, the views are incredible. Like, it stays pretty high. It really is incredible. And you can see how close you are to the Canadian border, the northern terminus of the PCT, right there. But here at Castle Pass, okay, this is where you make your right and you go over Frosty Pass, and then this is really where you enter the heart of the Pasayten Wilderness. Once you start going down Frosty Pass, you have this view to the west, and you can just tell you're entering a different climate. It's way drier. Like the snowy peaks that are to the west of you are gone, and you see a lot of burn scars. It's still very pretty, but you can just tell it's going to be different. Here, like I remember these switchbacks, like the trail, there was just no trail. It was burned, I think, the year before, and it was just like walking on ash, and I was like using the app to make sure I was still like at least walking in the right direction. And then this is really where the blowdown started as well. When I was there in maybe mid-July, it was before any crews had been through there for the season, and it was just hell blowdowns. I think I later saw on Facebook this post here from July 30th after I went through. Backcountry horseman completed 6 days on trail clearing trees from Bunker Hill to the East Fork of the Pasayten. Hundreds of them. Yeah, here we go. This okay. I thought I heard 1,000 trees. My comment when I was maybe a little bit fresher in my mind. Wow, I went through there a couple weeks ago and it's brutal. Must have been some very hard work. Yeah, more than 1,000 trees, and it was probably an 18-mile section, I think. It really was brutal. All right, we can go back to the map here. Airstrip, and then, yeah, it's like really, it's all down through here. The Pasayten River. It's just brutal. It was like jungle gym, and I remember here it was like early morning, and then it's mid-morning, and then, noon. And it was just so hot, so hot. And then you cross Pasayten Cabin. There's no cabin there. I don't know why it says cabin. So in so many places too, it says there's a cabin and there's not a cabin. Maybe there was someday, but there's not now. And then you start climbing up here, and I was really determined to like get up this climb. Remember that day before stopping for lunch, and I just it was so hot, and there's still blowdowns going up. They start to get less and less as you go up because the trees are smaller and there's not as many trees. One of the most worked days I've ever had on trail. But then you hit Bunker Hill. Just like that, everything changes and it's so much better. This is amazing hiking through here. You're up high. Like, what's the elevation of it? Yeah, 6,300. It's one of the almost as high as you're gonna get on the PNT. I know it goes, yeah, like 8 maybe, but still, like, it's pretty high for the PNT. And this is just amazing hiking. Forget where exactly, but there was this point I hit on this section, and it's like, oh, that blowdown was cut recently. Then it's like, oh wow, look at that trail work, and you could really tell. It's like, wow, this trail is well maintained, and this is just amazing hiking. I remember joking with one of my friends after I got through that section. It's like, yeah, the Pasayten Crest Trail up through there. It's that cruisy. That made it kind of hard was, well, it's hot, which is a given for the PNT. There were a lot of black flies and mosquitoes. I think one day I did 35-mile day because the bugs were just so ferocious. Anytime I stopped to get water, or I just wasn't even filtering water, just sticking the bottle under the pour over on the stream and just getting moving again to stay ahead of the black flies. But yeah, basically then you leave, you're on roads. There's this blue blaze here, but apparently it's quite dangerous, so I took the red line. And then you hit a road. Nighthawk, there were our wonderful trail angels who I stayed with. And then this is all a paved road. Fortunately, though, the traffic on it is very, very light. It can get hot. There's no shade on this road. And then you come into Oroville. Oroville is kind of like the halfway point, kind of like the Harper's Ferry of the PNT, I guess. And Oroville is a good-sized town. There's a hardware store, many full-size grocery stores, and many, maybe like 2 or 3. But yeah, there's no need to send a box to Oroville. Oroville is also the first time I saw westbound hikers. I remember I was eating at this pizzeria in town for lunch, and I was like looking at the Facebook group, and I saw some westbound hikers had a hotel room in Oroville, and I was like, hey, I'm in Oroville, I'm hiking eastbound. and we hung out for a little bit. Then I was on a bit of a tight schedule, so I hiked out that afternoon. And yeah, the trail through the Passaian, I guess, is sort of its own thing. And then again, it's kind of a different character when you're east of Oroville. It's still hot and dry. It's more, I don't know, like with this trail, it's like you go up over a mountain and then you're in a valley or you're on a road and then you're up and over the next mountain again. Yeah, there's like, you see here, there's some of these blue blazes. I think I went this way and took this blue blaze. I think this was closed in 2023, the red line here for a fire, I think from the previous year. Mount Bonaparte, there's a fire lookout I went up to. Wonderful views. And then you get down into the Bonaparte Lake Resort. And I think the section from Oroville to Bonaparte Lake is only like 50 miles, I want to say. So I didn't really take a huge resupply from Oroville to get to Bonaparte Lake because I sent a box to Bonaparte Lake. And if you want to resupply at Bonaparte Lake, you really do need to send a box. Because I got there pretty late. Actually, I remember I called them the afternoon that day and I was like, hey, I'm not going to make it there by the time you guys close. Can you just leave my box outside? And they said, sure, no problem. And I think I remember they told me that I was the only person who had sent the box to them. Yeah, they left it for me after hours. Unfortunately, I did not get to go to their little restaurant there, but there are lots of car campers there, and I remember some of them were talking to me, asked me about my hike, and gave me some food and things like that. And I also camped there. I want to say it was free or it was just like dark and I just found a spot and camped. I don't even really remember, honestly. Yep, the red line, red line, red line. This is kind of roads. Definitely not like the most scenic part of the trail through here, but still good walking. And then you got Republic. Okay, so Republic is an interesting trail town, probably mainly because there's 3 points that you can enter Republic in, because this US 50 kind of goes east-west all through Washington. And here there's the west entry, there's the south entry, and there's the east entry. And going eastbound, I thought it made the most sense for me to go from Bonaparte, where I got my box, hike all the way around, and then go in from the east side. I did meet a few other hikers who were going in on the west side, and that I'm sure is doable. Though I would not plan on going in from the south side, though, because there's very light traffic on this road, and this road also is very narrow, and there's very poor sight lines for hitching and places to pull out. So I would not plan on hitching in from the south. Also here, the red line, I don't know why. I don't know if anyone, no one does this red line. Everyone does the blue line here. And this is a pretty decent trail up through here, through here. And then again, I did the blue line. This is a bushwhack. I mean, the blue line is a bushwhack too, but apparently it wasn't as bad. And I think I also needed water. Yeah, and you get up here and this is all beautiful hiking, high on a ridge, great views. And then you get down into Sherman Pass. And the hitch here, I probably waited maybe 20 minutes. This is one of the funnier hitches I had on this hike, where this older lady pulls over and she's like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And her car, she's got like a station wagon. It's just packed with stuff, and she's got like a kayak in the back. I'm like, "Oh, I just need to ride down into Republic." She's like, "Well, I don't really have any room." I'm like, "Oh, I can make room." And I ended up like facing like backwards. Or I guess my head was towards the front, my feet were towards the back of the car, like on the kayak, and like driving down from this pass, and so like windy, twisty roads. This may be maybe a 30-minute drive too, down into town. Yeah, I mean, this is a great town. Everything is really close together, and the grocery stores are good, not great. They're smaller, but you can definitely do a full resupply at Republic, so I would not recommend sending a box. And it's also the only place I treated myself to a motel room, which I think was like $75 for a night, so not too bad. And then next morning got out of there and started hiking north. And a lot of this was burned up through here, but still good hiking. And then, yeah, I remember going down here off the Kettle Crest Ridge. These are like fire or Forest Service roads, and it was so hot. So hot. And then you get down to Kettle River, and there's a bridge here. He said he asked me if I was lost because I was going the wrong way. But the owner was very nice, let me take a siesta under the bridge and in the shade, which is very nice, and go for a quick swim in the river. So very good spot there for a break. Yeah, I mean, again, maybe not the most memorable hiking through here, but still, I would not want to skip it. Okay, and then you get into Northport. Northport is a tiny town. You cross the Columbia River, which I know the PCT famously crosses as it goes from Oregon to Washington. But the PNT also crosses the Columbia River here. Northport, yeah, like I said, it's a small town. Really, only resupply is like a gas station, but I'd say it's better than a normal gas station. Yeah, I don't know really what else to say. I remember when I got there, we walked across the bridge here at like 10 a.m. and I was gonna get a few things and then head out. And then I met a few other hikers, and they were staying at Trail Angels, and it's like, damn, that sounds really tempting to stay at the Trail Angels. So that's what I ultimately did. And also, there's this section coming out is about 20 miles paved road walk, and it was going to be a brutally hot afternoon. And so it was like, yeah, I'll stay for the night in Northport, and then I'll hike the road out in the morning when it's at least a little bit more pleasant for most of those road miles. Also, one thing I'll say about this road, these gas stations, I think especially this one, does not exist. Also, like, this is kind of sketchy. Some of the houses that were along here, I would not want to go up and knock on some of these doors and ask them for water or a place to stay. Like a lot of like no trespassing and Second Amendment kind of signs, things like that. Okay, but eventually you leave the paved road, you go over Abercrombie Mountain, which is really cool section. Remember, I camped here up on the saddle and had an amazing camp spot. Put the time lapse I took. Okay, and then you hike down into Medellin Falls. And Medellin Falls is a decent town, definitely a little bit bigger than Northport. The grocery store, I would say, was on par to one in Republic. Again, good, but not great. But again, I would not send a box to Medellin Falls because you can just resupply at the grocery store, which is what I did. Also got a bite to eat there. And also, it's where I picked up bear spray. I've never carried bear spray before on trail, and I was a little bit reluctant about doing it this time. But like every westbound hiker I had met was carrying bear spray, and I also have never hiked in grizzly bear country. I was able to pick some up at the it's not on Gut Hook, it looks like, but there's a hotel I think right on this corner that apparently is very hiker friendly, and I got a thing of bear spray out of their hiker box. I never used it. Shocker. You know, one of the things you hope to have and not need, the need and not have. Okay, then you hike the road out. Let's see. I did the blue. Again, I think everyone does the blue here. The red apparently is very bad. See if there's any comments on the red here. Yeah, nothing from 2020, yeah. So everyone does the blue through here. And this is like big alternate here. And then everyone does the blue. This is very nice hiking up here. And then you do the blue. And then this is where you cross into Idaho. All right, Priest Lake. And you start climbing up out of that. This is all fairly easy hiking through here. And you start climbing up to Lookout Mountain. And then if you're an eastbound hiker, this is where you're going to be faced with the decision of the Lion's Head Ridge or the Lion's Head Creek. I took to the ridge, and the one thing I'd say about doing the creek route, if you're eastbound especially, you're going to be going uphill on the bushwhack part, and kind of the grain of all the plants, vegetation is going to be against you, and it's going to just make that extremely difficult So if you're eastbound, I would say be prepared to do the ridge. And the ridge it's really cool, but it's also very difficult. I think I averaged like 1 mile an hour terrain. I remember I got here to look out in the evening, and then this first part isn't bad. It's like rock hops, and I didn't think the exposure or climbing was very difficult. But basically, like you're either walking on granite or you're kind of schwacking. And the first part, the schwacks were just like there's a social trail through like some pines, and it's relatively open. Yeah, I remember I got to this camp and I had trouble finding a spot, but I eventually did. Like you follow the blue line, it's not that hard to navigate. I just used the app to do all the navigation, and it was fine. And then here, kind of the I guess the eastern part of the ridge. Um, it gets more difficult. Like the schwacking is more intense. It's thicker. It slows you down a lot more. So that the most exposed part of the lion's head was, I think it was here. Like, see where these topo lines are getting steeper. Find like the right level to stay on. I think I got like cliffed out once there, but again, like it really wasn't bad. Okay, and then you rejoin the red line, and then this part I remember I had to was kind of hard to find the red line or find. Okay, well, not the red line, but there are game trails, and you basically find the game trail, aka social trail, to the top, and I couldn't find it at first, and it was just like smashing through these really thick brush, and then I found the game trail and the social trail, and it was cruisy up to here, and then basically once you get to Ball Lake, you're home free, and this is a cruiser trail, and it's a beautiful trail all the way. And I think I camped. Yeah, I camped here. Remember Peter Pan's comment there. But yeah, beautiful. Okay, and then you get down into this valley. What was this? Sort of the Kootenai River Valley. And this is where these are roads. And then you get down to here. And then this is where you would hitch into Bonner's Ferry. I know when I was walking the road, someone offered to drive me into Bonner's Ferry, but I was like, I want my continuous footsteps. So I hiked down to here, and I think I got a ride from the first car. And Bonner's Ferry, it's a good, I mean, the people are nice, they're hiker friendly, but it is not the best trail town in the sense that everything is really spread out. So, like, the grocery store, the outfitter, they're like on one side of town, and it's a very, like, car centric town. Between like the downtown and like where the grocery stores are, it's probably like 3 miles, which you don't want to have to like walk on a when you're in town. So I think I had the hitch drop me at the outfitter, and then I had to like walk a mile on this like busy road to get to the grocery store. And I actually had met a trail angel on the previous section who allowed me to stay in their lawn in Bonus Ferry. Then he came and picked me up and drove me back, and then I think I walked down here, and I got a bite to eat in the downtown, and then in the morning, again, I had to walk down this road. So I had to walk across the bridge here, and then there wasn't really a good place to hitch, so I was just like walking the road and trying to hitch, and eventually I got a ride to here. Yeah, and I started hiking up. And okay, you start hiking up. I remember this is a really dusty trail that they allow like dirt bikes on, and like they really erode the trail really fast, so you're kind of like hiking in this like narrow groove that's awkward on your feet. And again, it was super dusty and super hot. Not my favorite part of the trail. But you get down to here and you get to the Feast Creek Resort. It was amazing. This is a great place. You see my comment here. They opened it up for me at 3 p.m. They're usually only open on the weekends, but they opened it up for me, gave me food and beer. Yeah, we're super nice. Like I was literally the only one eating in the restaurant that day, and I was maybe there for an hour or so. And then you go up to the next ridge. This is where you cross into Montana. Okay, and then this is where you need to make another decision. You have to decide between the red line or the Northwest Peaks alternate. And I chose the Northwest Peaks alternate, which is definitely a lot easier than the Lion's Head alternate. You would want to be in the Lion's Head in bad weather. You would definitely not want to be in the Northwest Peaks in bad weather. Unfortunately, I had good weather, and the whole trail, I had good weather. It like hardly ever rained. I think on Lion's Head Ridge, I woke up at like 4 in the morning with rain spattering my tent, but other than that, there's no rain at all for like 40 days on trail, which is pretty remarkable, I guess. I guess the coast there was some, but anyway. So here, and then this is kind of a bushwhack, but it's not bad. You're kind of just dodging through the pines, and you're going up to Davis Mountain here, and it's just beautiful. It really is amazing. Amazing hiking up here. Yeah, I think you got up to this peak, and then this is all like a ridge, and you're just like walking along the top, and it's pretty cool. On this part here, I know it's like the black rock, and there's some exposure, but it's not that bad. And then yeah, Davis Mountain. Again, it's like all pretty open and fairly easy walking to the cabin. And then there's a trail, and then this is a bit more popular, but I don't think I saw anybody else that day. And then yeah, you just hike the road down and rejoin the red line. Red line, red line, red line. Okay, this is all like the Yak, which is again pretty remote. Here I believe you can hitch down into the town of Yak. But I had plenty of food from Bonner's Ferry to get to Eureka. So I just continued on the red line. And also, I remember this day I was on a mission to get to here, the Mount Henry. It's not really even on far out, but there's a lookout tower up here. And I was on a mission to get there for camp that night. Yeah, it was an amazing camp. Like I had the whole tower to myself, and it was clean, awesome. And that was actually my second to last night on trail. And this is just kind of ups and downs, not bad. And then you get down to the road. So Rexford is very touristy. And it's not really like a town. It's just kind of like a place where people go and bring their RVs. But there are a couple of restaurants here. I went to the one that I think was called, yeah, the Frontier House, which is pretty good. I remember they had live music. I think it was a Friday night too, and they're definitely popping. But yeah, so and then just hike down into Eureka. Eureka is actually where I got off the trail because I was basically just out of time. With the time I had, I had to get back for work and for school. But when I go back and I do the CBT, I will be basically starting the CBT from Eureka. And I'll be finishing the PNT and doing this whole Glacier National Park section. So I guess I will talk about the logistics for that after I hike it, because I don't want to talk about it if I haven't hiked it yet. And one thing I'll add is just real quick. I know most people aren't going to do this, but I hitchhiked from Eureka all the way down to Missoula. So, and it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I hope you guys like this kind of different format. Yeah, please let me know what you think. If there's anything else you'd like to see me do about the PNT. And I've been thinking about making a gear video as well. Thanks for watching.